in meeting with businesses, Nick, what I always hear businesses say is, I didn't know a student can come to my place of work during the school day.
Yeah.
Because if you're open anytime within that school day and you think that you can't connect to a high schooler, I mean, that's a lot of our businesses in our community.
Hi, I'm Nick Armstrong, and this is the Founded in FoCo podcast. Every episode, we get a chance to talk to an innovative mover and shaker in our community. And today, we have an extra special episode that is fully packed because we have two innovative mover and shakers in our community, Stefanie and Nick. Introduce yourselves and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nick. I'm Stefanie Merrill, and I am the K-12 Work-Based Learning Business Liaison for the region. That has a lot of explanation, and we'll get into that a little bit later now.
And yeah, thank you, Nick. I am Nick Peterson. I work for the Poudre School District. I am their Community and Business Development Coordinator. Thanks for having us.
So the two of you have a session at Founded in FoCo. Let's talk about that a little bit and what attendees can expect to learn from you.
Sure. So at Founded in FoCo, Nick and I really want to explain our no-code collaborative in bringing businesses and students together through work-based learning.
Yeah, and selfishly, we hope that we can become connectors because we have seen the results, we've seen the benefits for businesses of engaging in work-based learning, and we're really just trying to tell that story. We're going to bring in some panelists that are some recent examples, kind of focusing on small, innovative businesses. One of them is a business with 3 employees that wrote into a grant that they are hiring a student as we speak to be their intern. So we're just really excited to share some compelling examples and continue telling this story to the business community.
Stefanie, where have you seen businesses most likely to succeed in terms of bringing in an intern for work-based learning?
Sure, Nick. Actually, that's part of my role and part of the collaborative's role. Any business can really bring in a student successfully in work-based learning, whether that's a job shadow, a tour of their business, an informational interview. Nick and I always prefer to reach out to businesses and hope to really capture businesses' interests in paid employment internships. And our role is to actually sit down with businesses and talk to them about, what they can bring in and how students' education can actually support them, support their business, and really connect to this workforce pipeline between high school students and business.
Yeah, and I'll add to that if I can. Just on the school district side, I do a little bit of what Stefanie does with that direct work with businesses. And what we find is school systems are notoriously hard to navigate. I'm sure a lot of the business owners as parents can relate to that to some degree, whether it's understanding grad requirements and all that. And it's been a similar experience for businesses that are trying to do some kind of work-based learning. Who do you go to develop an internship? And so we're trying to position ourselves to be that easy button for our business partners. And but it definitely takes some explaining. And then kind of to your other point, I think it was, what kind of businesses are suited for this or something like that. We have excellent data that our students provide themselves when they're working on what we call their ICAP, their individual career and academic plan. State law, by the way, in Colorado, every kid has one. We have it digitally in our systems regionally. And so even if it's the most niche business, like a funeral parlor or something like that, well, guess what? We can run a search and in minutes tell you, hey, there's 13 kids that have mortuary science saved as their top career choice. So literally any business, we can probably match it with one of our students for a work-based learning opportunity.
So walk me through the process. What does that look like end to end for a student and for the employer?
Sure. I can start on the employer side. Again, my role is not at a district, but it's actually 100% business facing. What I mean by that is I work with, talk to, meet with businesses every day, any industry, any size, and talk to them about work-based learning and the benefits of work-based learning. Alongside that, if I go and meet with a business, let's say a funeral parlor, I don't know how we picked that business, but we're just going to roll with it. Then I meet with the work-based learning coordinators or communicate to the work-based learning coordinators and say, hey, we have this great internship at the funeral parlor. And then the work-based learning coordinators can reach out to the students and get an idea of how many people or who are the individuals who want to connect. On the flip side of that, work-based learning coordinators or school districts might contact me and say, hey, Stefanie, we have 5 students interested in funeral parlors, and we don't have any in our system. We don't have any businesses to connect to. So the next step for me is to go out into the community and find those businesses interested in engaging. And again, talk up the benefits of why engaging in work-based learning with high school students is a support to your business.
And on the education side, we have really strong data that tell us that students that are connected to work-based learning opportunities related to their interest areas graduate at higher rates. They report higher rates of connection to adults in their interest. They attend better, they get higher grades. And then we're doing them a service too by giving them real world experience to test what they think they're interested in comparison to reality, so they can make an informed choice to whatever's next, versus my experience of just go to college and take out the loans and you can figure it out. That's outdated thinking, and we're trying to do better.
Yeah, it really is backwards to have the piece of paper in your hand and then say, cool, now what? And I think that that's where a lot of us ended up. So talk to me about the approach and some of the tools that either businesses can use or students can use to sort of make that match occur. What does that look like in terms of the skills training, in terms of maybe trade skills that they want to apply to? Because this is not just service-based businesses or degree required jobs either, right? This is for all businesses?
Absolutely. And I can start by talking about the platform that we use just a little bit, and then I'll let Nick follow up with that. But as far as the resources and connecting, and that's a really important piece, Nick. The reason that I am the work-based learning business liaison for the region is because schools in this region in Northern Colorado are really dedicated to seeking business partnerships out. The way they do that is through this shared platform called Xello, Xello. School districts have bought into the platform. And when I meet with a business and when they say, yes, I'm ready to engage, I'm ready to sign up, how do I do that? Actually, we put them into the Xello platform and we really outline everything that's connected to that opportunity. Maybe that's even like a course or a class in a certain industry or profession to connect them to the business. Whatever that is, we go ahead and we put that in Xello, and students do their career exploration through Xello, and they can request these opportunities, and that's how that connection's made.
Yeah, and just adding on the education side, and I'll share this website as a resource, of course, but it's psdfutureready.org. That's a great way for members of the community, parents, and even students themselves to see the different career technical education and other pathways in the district. These are sequences of courses that are aligned to industry areas, whether it's business and marketing or agricultural science and natural resources or computer science. Sequences of classes where the teachers are interfacing with business. The curriculum is designed with our business partners collaboratively, and it levels up. You have your intro class and your level 2s and 3s. That level 4 experience is what we're hoping is a work-based learning experience for our students. So we've got students in all these pathways, and this is a PSD website I'm sharing, but all the school districts have similar configurations. And so by virtue of picking and going through these sequences of classes, that's another tool in which we use to help match students and assess demand.
So how would a business put together an appropriately sized internship program? What would the project look like? What types of supports would they need on their end in order to make this a really successful venture for them?
The businesses themselves, when I speak to businesses, Nick, we want to lift up the fact that I think a lot of people want to raise their hand and they want to help students out. They want to help students' education, and they want to help students get ready for their future. And we want to remember that, but also respect the business and make sure that the internship that they're setting up isn't just an internship that they are putting together to meet all the requirements of the student, but also how does it really help the business succeed? And again, what I do when I speak to businesses is really speak to them about the hours that they need the intern. We want this to be a helpful experience. We want it to aid in the progression of the business, the age requirements. But also with that conversation comes a lot of those breakdown of myths that we have about high school. And as Nick said, a lot of things that we knew are outdated. One of those things is that students can leave a lot of times during their open period. It counts as a class in work-based learning to go to their internship. So when we're talking to a business that's only open from 8 to 3, we want to educate them that there is possibilities for students to leave during those school hours to have the successful experience during their day and during the business day to help the business as well. So breaking down those myths is a really important component of building an internship, because we want to educate the business on the new and current way of educating students to be ready for their future.
Yeah, I would say having it related in some way to their pathway, having it be developmentally appropriate. And I wouldn't stack too many other requirements on it, because I think that's maybe the first thinking with a business of, oh, what I'm thinking of isn't well suited, or, oh, we can't do that, or this doesn't, labor laws, or this is better for someone 18 plus. We want to figure out how we can get to yes. What is the business's need? What do they think is the best for their goals? And then we're really confident that we can kind of put together a great experience for students. Whether it's paid or unpaid, they can earn high school credit, like Stefanie was saying, for the hours that they do, which can offset classes in their school day, whether AM or PM. So like she was saying, just busting those myths and figuring out how to get to yes. I would also say just another perk for businesses, having a young person around. There's a lot of talk, oh, Gen Z, they're so different. What are they like? Well, find out. Have a high school student, bring them in, whether it's to help zhuzh up your social media, or we bring in a kid who's learned the latest and greatest in computer science. Our students can bring a lot of skills and a lot of benefits to a business environment.
So where have we seen things go off the rails in terms of these internships, right? So you said a couple of things that are like too specific. There maybe there's some mental barriers there about figuring out like, oh, there's myths, there's things that you have to sort of myth bust for high schools, way things happen right now in high schools. Tell me about where things go off the rails for a lot of these internships. If they do happen to go off the rails, I would assume it doesn't happen very often.
Defining the expectations clearly on the front end, just in terms of schedule and, what the arc of the experience is always a good idea. And that's what Stefanie and I are here to be partners with. Just the hiring process and just getting a good solid start with all of that stuff up front is good to do that work. And then it's usually smooth sailing from there. In terms of going off the rails, I have dealt with a couple of proposed internship opportunities that there might be one or two aspects of it that we need to look at that might be crossed with labor laws or things like that. Or, hey, we can't be doing work from this height above the floor, or hey, this high voltage aspect of, working with these power lines, we might need to cut that and keep the other 95% of it. But for me, that doesn't feel like going off the rails. It just feels like a good, authentic conversation. And like Stefanie was saying, just that educational piece. And we want to do it from a place of gratitude and not, oh, gotcha. We're trying to cultivate a community of businesses that want to do this. And it takes just that step-by-step situation-based education. How do we make your internship the best fit on both sides?
And if I may add, Nick, I was going to say too that I don't know if again, off the rails is the right term, except the challenge that we've had on the bigger picture, the bigger scale of work-based learning is, as we know, we can connect with a company and we connect with a contact at that company, and that contact, whoever it is just like all in work-based learning, ready to go. We have their support. But when that contact leaves that company, sometimes then we need to re-educate everyone else at the company about, no, you were all in, this was working. So part of my role is to not let that happen, right? Embed work-based learning and their success into the company rather than just into that sole contact at the company. So if that company contact were to leave, the remainder of the people still say, yes, we had that intern, it was an awesome experience and we want to keep doing this. Let's form a new point person or champion at our business to keep things going.
So understanding that the vast majority of businesses in Northern Colorado are 9 or fewer employees, and assuming that you also would have a decent roster of like small businesses, maybe solopreneurs, freelancers in that chain, what have you seen are best practices in terms of integrating an internship into the day-to-day workflow for those businesses?
Yeah, I would say, Nick, my role is funded through a workforce innovation grant, and that grant was received by the Fort Collins Area Chamber. Through the chamber, I have many connections to very small businesses, and I feel like this is really an important piece of the equation because school districts are really good at connecting to some of those really large entities in the community because, you can not just take one intern, but maybe 20 interns. So connecting to small businesses is actually pretty close to my heart, and I love that piece. As far as the connection is concerned, I've had a lot of just sole business owners contact me in all industries, across the board, in need of, like Nick said, a young person, their education, their mind, their creativity. And at Founded in FoCo, I plan on bringing one of those business owners, and her student would like to come along to tell their story of success, because social media and marketing across the board is something that's really important to small businesses. And some small business owners are so good at their job and so passionate about their job, but there's these other hats that they have to wear that sometimes they don't want to wear or can't wear or don't know how to wear. And that's where these interns can really fill that gap and make their business successful on all fronts, especially that social media marketing piece. I find that's a really important component in connecting to all industries, especially those small businesses that wear so many hats.
So you
And
alluded
Stefanie has a really great TikTok too, by the way. No, just kidding. Just
the interns are at full.
no, we
full
don't.
press
Yeah, just leave it
on
to the interns. I do have one thing to add, and that is that PSD Future Ready website that kind of delineates and defines the CTE pathways and the different levels of classes. That is actually a really fun thing to look at with prospective business partners that are thinking about providing work-based learning, because it jogs their thinking. They're like, oh, wait, you have students doing business pathways? Wait, they can take a social media marketing class, or you've got students taking iOS Swift programming. That's great because I need an app. So that can really ignite project ideas by just seeing the rich tapestry of options that our students are taking in all the pathways. So usually when they look through this, they're like, man, where was this when I was in school? And I agree.
So when it comes to setting up the interns for success at your company, what does it look like in terms of training or supervision, other aspects like that? What's the hourly commitment for an entrepreneur who is, as you said, wearing many hats, and how to balance all of those different responsibilities, along with the responsibility of really making sure this intern gets what they were hoping for out of the internship?
Nick, I think you make a really great point, and you're really thinking about this from a business perspective, which I really appreciate, because I think you said it all in like, what time commitment would I have to put in? Because it sounds like a lot to add an intern or add another opportunity to your business when you're wearing many hats. And that's one of the myths that I'd like to address at Founded in FoCo with the presenters that are coming, and how actually that intern supports that owner, that small business, in a way that they can start taking off some of those hats and do what they love. Now, as far as the time commitment, I think that that's really different for everyone. That's one of the things that Nick and I really speak to and walk through with the business, because if you think about the other experiences that you've had in your lifetime, whether you're a parent, whether you were a coach, whether you were a teacher, or maybe you're just made to teach, for that type of person, for that type of personality, for that kind of champion at the business, this may come a little bit easier because you can see and understand that learning experience like a mentor would. For others, just because you're the contact that we've reached out to doesn't mean that you are maybe that person who wants to be with or educate or share that experience with the student. And that's okay. You can see the bigger picture of what work-based learning can do for your company and for the student. And, we find other champions in the business sometimes, but also, I think when you break it down into the job description and kind of those specific details, it's not as big of a lift as you may imagine when you're just thinking about bringing a high school student on. It's not as scary as it sounds, I should say. I think it's more of a help.
Yeah, I can only just double down on that and then circle back to the myth busting piece. You can have a student there part-time, or maybe just a couple days a week that match the rhythm of your team, or evenings or weekends. We have that flexibility, and I think that there's an assumption out of the gate that we don't necessarily, that internships look a certain way, that they have a certain burden that comes with them. And so, we just try to pull at that thread and figure out what works for the business. And then just, I think, propping up our students, that we have a lot of them. We have multiple applicants for every internship that we post. And Stefanie and I won't stop until we have every student that can go through a work-based learning opportunity, because it really is that crucial to our goals, and I think to creating a better world. But for now, we have a supply problem. And so the demand is enormous, and businesses can be highly selective and really get some serious talent as part of their teams.
And then, Nick, I would say too, just a very direct answer to your question. Sometimes when I'm talking to businesses and they say, gosh, I just don't know about this time commitment. What if it's not the right student? What if they don't know what I want them to know? What if this is a burden? Sometimes I say, do a long job shadow, do an informational interview, start somewhere that feels right to you with work-based learning. And I think you'd be surprised if you were to spend a couple hours with a student at your business and understand the knowledge and skill and creativity that they have. I think that it's a lot easier than to say, oh my gosh, this person can really contribute to my business and I have so much to teach them, and let's make that match happen.
Yeah, and what I've heard you say is something that's similar to the concept of why folks enjoy sending their kids to college, right? They say, go to college, experiment, figure things out, like do all of the things in like freshman, sophomore year, and by the time you get to junior year, you'll have it like nailed down. And if you have that capacity, the freedom of your supportive family in that way, that's awesome. What it sounds like you are saying is this starts a lot sooner, and you're doing it in the high school era. And is that also applicable to the middle schoolers? Do they get that same internship experience as well? Are you starting on that early on that path?
There is what you call a work-based learning continuum, and you can just Google that, and it'll take you to some of the resources on the Colorado Department of Education. And there's learning about work, and then there's learning through work, and then learning at work. And so we're really talking about that kind of end point of the continuum where they have done some of that work. I mentioned ICAP earlier. So there are structures in schools that that take students through that continuum. And I even help out with some of that. I run an event through our health sector partnership for 8th graders called Get in the Guts. Some of the other sector partnerships do career expos, and plenty of businesses are doing job shadows and things like that at various levels. So we put a lot of time into internships because that's kind of the real crown jewels of this, but we really value everything throughout that continuum of work.
Zealous starts, as Nick said, in middle school. I have a middle schooler, I have a high schooler, and it's pretty cool to see, my middle schooler can put in her interests and hobbies and likes into Zello, and it's like this long because she likes everything because, she does. And my son, who's a little bit more mature, and as we know, as we age and grow and learn more about ourselves, that list becomes smaller. And that's where work-based learning can really start getting you from point A to point B, from middle school to high school and then beyond.
Yeah, it's a remarkable toolkit to be able to have students avail themselves of opportunities inside the community, right? And I think that all of us have that sense of like, man, I wish that would have been a thing for us, because we would have found the thing that we were passionate about so much faster, or even realized, oh, I really enjoy this piece of this component, and it's maybe I thought I was going to go in this direction, but I really liked, the interacting with people or interacting with the spreadsheets or whatever it is, and piecing that out as early as possible is such a great resource for our community. So thanks for all you're doing in this space. And who do you want in the room at your Founded in FoCo presentation?
We want everyone because we feel like everyone can connect in some capacity to work-based learning. If it's not you yourself, usually you have a spouse, a partner, a friend, a colleague, someone who you can really see connecting. And so I say that kind of jokingly, we want everyone, but really we feel like sometimes when we meet with a business, it's like not a good fit, but they can refer us on to another business where it's an excellent fit and we have a great experience. So I think that whether you're a parent, whether you're a business, whether you're a community member, I think everyone can really benefit from at least the knowledge and education about where high school is, where work-based learning is, and what our students can do to connect to businesses, and how important it is for businesses to start working on this workforce pipeline to bring educated high school students into their business.
I would just add one tiny thing. This kind of thing is very much in vogue right now, work-based learning. If businesses are looking at grants or things like that, one of the groups that we're working with, and they'll be there on our panel, CloudSci, they wrote this into a grant, and so and the feedback they got is this made it stand out from the rest of the things that we're getting. This work-based learning component, the fact that you're connecting, you're reaching into your local education organizations and building your talent pipeline in this way. So that's just maybe another constituent that folks that are looking at grants and things like that.
Awesome. We talked a little bit about myth busting, and I'll let you close it out with the one myth that you wish would be totally and utterly busted about internships.
Ooh, that's such a good one. I would say in meeting with businesses, Nick, what I always hear businesses say is, I didn't know a student can come to my place of work during the school day.
Yeah.
Because if you're open anytime within that school day and you think that you can't connect to a high schooler, I mean, that's a lot of our businesses in our community.
Okay, well, you took mine. Thank you. And I'll just do maybe the other one. We have had our own high school experiences, and I won't, comment on anybody's age. Everybody looks great. I've touched up my appearance on Zoom. We're looking good. But the experience of a high school student now is very different than what we've gone through. And so I think people project that on, be like, oh, well, when I was at this age, I had this level of knowledge at this level of maturity. And I would say challenge those assumptions and really take a fresh look at what's going on in education. And that PSD Future Ready website can kind of help illustrate to the public what our students are doing and maybe help spark ideas and what they can do for your business.
Excellent. Where can we learn more about work-based learning at PSD or throughout Northern Colorado?
There's many ways to connect to us. Of course, I work regionally, and my job every day is to connect to businesses. So I love the very personal approach. Email me, and if I may, just say my email. It's smerrill .wblconnection@outlook.com. But, we are part of a collaborative. I work regionally, but there are individuals like Nick at every school district in the region here that are working to make these connections. And if you go to NOCO Inspire, there is a component there where you can click on it and you can fill out a form and you will find one of us. And we really work regionally to make sure that we're connecting you to the right person that makes sense for you and your business.
We believe a rising tide floats all boats. So we all share in this work, and it's totally possible that a internship opportunity that I've developed as part of PSD might go to a student who's in Thompson District. And that's fantastic. That means the business selected their best person. And so when she says we're in a collaborative, we really are. We all really believe in this work.
Wonderful. Well, Stefanie and Nick, thank you so much for joining us on the Founded in FoCo podcast. And at Founded in FoCo, you can hear from them live March 4th through 8th at the Fort Collins Senior Center and learn all about work-based learning and internships for your business or nonprofit. And we can't wait to see you there. Hey, thanks for listening. I'm Nick Armstrong, and this is a Founded in FoCo podcast. For more great interviews like this one, join us at foundedinfoco.com.